joining us with Sense. And we're gonna explore our skeleton. I'm gonna do a little demonstration of the skeleton this morning, and then you're going to learn about your own skeleton and explore it yourself. So first of all, you know that the skeleton has all of these ribs. And I'm going to be a little bit more specific about these ribs. First of all, there are some ribs that attach to the sternum, like here, 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 and here. There are some ribs that attach to cartilage. And then there are some ribs that don't attach to the front at all. The ribs that are attached to the sternum, and I'm going to bring this a little closer so you can see. Right there. The ribs that attach to the breastbone or sternum are called true ribs because they just start at the back, they come around and attach here on both sides, on each side. There. Okay, they're called true ribs. The other ribs that attach just to, here's the rib and here's the cartilage. So they attach to the cartilage, and then the cartilage attaches to the sternum bone. And that is called false ribs because they don't really attach to the bone except through, and you can see that this is a different color, a different, plastic. And then there are floating ribs to the side. And I put some tape on here so it's easier to see. And our bones don't actually fall in like that, but it's just the model. And if you can see it up close, there's this one. It has a tip, it ends right at the end there. It comes around and stops. And then have another rib down here that comes around and then just stops at the tip. Okay, and we're going to explore within ourselves, feeling these ribs on ourselves today. Because our theme this month is inner strength and outer focus. And our inner strength is knowing about ourselves, knowing ourselves through movement. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a roadmap on how we're going to explore this using this model, the skeleton demo, help you with that. First of all, the easiest things to feel is probably just putting your hands on any rib like that. And when you breathe in and out, it comes up and it drops down. Okay. The obvious thing is that there's a curve down here. And I'll just do it on this side so you can see. There's a curve down here, and then it attaches up here at the near the xiphoid process on the sternum, and then the same thing happens on the other side. Okay, so those are really obvious. And these, because we have so many ribs, you can always place your hand on any part of your rib and you should be able to feel something. Okay, so you don't have to be so specific. Okay. And then the other part that's obvious is that this is a bone, and it's pretty wide, but we don't really know how wide that is. So I'm going to encourage you to possibly, if it works for you, I think it does. I'm just going to put this here. An easy way to find the width of the sternum is to put your fingers kind of like, I'm going to put my finger here, and I'm going to keep my finger narrow here so you can see on either side of the rib. And if I can bring you a little bit closer, maybe you can see a little better. I always want you to see really clearly. So on the top, on the bottom, on the top and bottom, I'm going to keep my fingers here on this side. So when I come close, so the breastbone is right in between, right? I can't go in any further that's the breastbone. Okay, so that is one way of looking for it. And you'll say, ah, my breastbone is actually wider than I think, or it's narrower than I think. The other part is it goes higher and lower than we think. Okay, so I'll go back down here in a minute. So the ribs, this is rib 1, and I put some blue tape around here to show you that here's my finger, here's the first rib, and it actually goes all the way up here. So here's the clavicle, and the first rib goes above the clavicle. And you're going to find that on yourself as we explore, because as we explore, you'll get a better understanding of what your whole rib cage or rib basket is. The other thing that, so the first rib is above the clavicle. It's on the front. You can't see it there, but my finger's here. It goes down, all the way down through these ribs. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 what we call true ribs. And then there are 3 false ribs, 8, 9, and 10. And then we have 2 floating ribs, 11 and 12. And the distance between the floating ribs and the pelvis depends on your genetics. So if I were to stand next to Tom, he would have a lot of space between here and here. But when I put myself in this position where the knee is up, I barely have an inch just because I'm short. That's my genetics. So you're going to explore the space between here, where the curve of this rib is, and this spot right here, which is called the iliac crest. Because the space between here and into the fleshy area, you can find the maybe tip. Not everybody will find it, but you might at least pretend that you know that it's there. The tip of the floating rib and the tip of this floating rib. And it's not too easy to find. The way I would describe finding it is if you had a pencil or pen, you had a pen and you put a towel over it, and then you're trying to find the tip of the pen. That's what it feels like. So if you don't find it, don't worry. Just know that it's back there and that the rib cage goes from this very end all the way up, all the way up, all the way up to above the clavicle, so that when you breathe, all of this comes up and then it goes down. It also comes forward, up and down. And you can also think about breathing lower and breathing upper and breathing towards the back. So I just wanted you to see that.
So Janet, I do have a question. You said that the bone, the clavicle, it's below the clavicle or above the clavicle? I was confused.
The first rib right here, is the first rib. Is that what you're asking, Kara?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Let me see if I can put this right next to the rib.
There you go.
There. So here is the beginning of the first rib on the sternum, and it goes here, and I put a tape on top of the rib, so it dives underneath the clavicle and then comes back to the back to attach. So if I kind of
Okay.
see from here and there, can you see that blue line?
I see it, but I think I was just confused because I heard you say it was above the clavicle, and I think it's below the clavicle, right? Because the clavicle is this longer one. Is that right?
It's both. You
Oh,
see here's the clavicle.
yes.
It begins underneath the clavicle
Okay.
and comes and attaches to the vertebrae above the clavicle.
Oh,
See here, I put blue tape on the first rib.
got it.
Okay, so
Okay.
it starts under, it goes underneath, and then it's up above.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay? So I can also show it to you this way. Okay, does that help you, Kayla?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the tape, the blue tape there to explain, it's awesome idea.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Janet, it's Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi. Do we know if those floating ribs have any functions?
That's a good question. I don't know. Tom, Martha, do you have any questions? Do you know anybody, an anthropologist?
I think they
during the lesson-
function mostly like the other ribs for protection of the organs, the kidneys, all the things inside of us, all those vulnerable points. And because they're not attached, they may be a little more mobile than the other ribs. So there may be more movement there because they aren't connected to the sternum in front.
And I believe that not everyone has both. That whether you truly have two identifiable floating ribs, there's some individual variation there. Patty
Well,
was
we know
adding-
that Adam's missing one.
And Adam's missing one. Thank you, Tom. And Patty's adding about the protection of the internal organs in the chat. But that is certainly the bigger ribs that wrap all the way around, that we sometimes call the rib cage, right, are very protective. But we forget how flexible they are, which I think is something that's really going to help us understand today.
And you know that they're not attached to the shoulder blade, right? Tom already showed that previously, that it slides like this and slides like this and slides back. Just kind of reiterate that. Okay, anybody else have any questions about the ribs? Okay, great.
Is the only thing that's attached to the shoulder blade at the top, right? It
Correct.
attaches, yeah,
Exactly.
because I had my clavicle pulled away from the sternum and yes, I have to keep my shoulders up all the time. Okay.
That's exactly right, Carla. Of the entire structure of the arm, I'm holding this here, let me just kind of do it this way. Of the entire structure of the arm, the only bony connection is the clavicle, right here,
Mhm.
clavicle and sternum.
Can we see that where it connects to the shoulder blade at the back?
Sure, I'll do my best. You're looking for what? The shoulder blade and the clavicle? What was the
Yeah,
question again?
yeah, that's it, the shoulder blade and the clavicle.
Okay,
A long bone.
sorry. And maneuvering this guy around. Okay. So again, this is the shoulder blade from here, here, and there. Got it?
Uh-huh.
This is the glenohumeral joint, is the ball of the arm bone, the humerus. And right underneath here is the clavicle.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have another way of showing this to you. So is that sharing now? Oh, there it is. It's a little
Yeah.
slow. Okay, so this is a program called Human Anatomy. Okay, and I love it. And we can do it this way. And so to answer Kayla's question, I could just click first rib. Do you see that, Kayla?
Yes.
Okay, so the clavicle is right here and the blue is the first rib.
Mm-hmm.
See how clear that is?
Yes.
Yes.
Fancy stuff. I love this stuff. Okay, and you can see that the sternum is in front and there's certain ribs that attach to it. And there are certain ribs, this one, and this one, these three lower ribs attach down here to the blue, this blue section. Oops, all of it is cartilage there. Okay. Okay, now I don't want that. Then I can turn it around. This is so cool. Sorry for getting too excited about this, gang, but here's the first, this rib 11, and this is rib 12, and they're floating. Okay, there's no tip. The tip doesn't go around to the front. You see that? There,
Mm-hmm.
there, and there. Oops. There. Whoops. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is my newest thing. But I wanted to show you, especially Kayla has a perfect question about where is it and how, see how high this first rib is, okay? So when people, you put your hand right over your shoulder, on top of your shoulder, and you go, oh, my muscles are too tight. A lot of it is actually the first rib. People think that, oh, that's muscle. No, that's the bone. You see that? Questions? Anyway, oh yeah, getting back to Carla's question, here's the clavicle. You see that, Carla?
Yes.
Okay, this is the humerus. And this is the scapula.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
Okay, and when
Fantastic.
you zoom in, they're all close together. That's the clavicle, this is the humerus. Okay, so they're all connected and close, but they're not the same. Okay, and then what attaches, here's the clavicle again. This joint right there, the ligament to the sternum, that's where the arm attaches to the ribs, to the rest of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great picture.